today we have quite the treat. I'm here with Dr. Joel Serghany, the owner-founder of Western New York MRI. They have an impressive 9 locations across the Buffalo-Niagara region, and today we are at the Lockport location. So Dr. Serghany, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Missy. Thank you for the nice introduction. Me and my partners, we've worked tirelessly for almost 2 decades to establish what we have established and to grow to the extent we have grown so far.
I think you're one of the hardest working individuals that I know.
It takes hard work to get the accomplishments.
Actually, beyond your hard work, I have to say that Dr. Serghany has a unique characteristic that most physicians don't have. He's actually very entrepreneurial, he's actually very business savvy, and no disrespect to physicians, that's just a very unlikely characteristic for most physicians, which is really great. And I have questions that I'm really excited to talk to him about with that today. So Dr. Serghany, you grew up in Lebanon.
That's correct.
Did your medical school training there? Or your schooling, I don't know about your training, I should rephrase that. And then you came to the U.S. What brought you to the U.S.?
Actually, I went to the American University of Beirut, so
Okay.
it followed the American standards, and it's the American way of you have the undergrad, and then you do 4 years of medical school.
Okay.
Unlike the French way or the European way, where you go into 7 years of medical school. And during that time, Lebanon was in a very big crisis, and it was wartime. It wasn't pleasant. Plus, the American University of Beirut has had multiple generations of physicians who traveled the world, who have reached heights in every single major city in the U.S.
Okay.
And they go back, and that's, and you bring new ideas. And since I went into radiology, or radiology was my choice, which I started my residency in Lebanon, I knew it was much wider scope here and bigger. It's very technologically dependent, and it needs a lot of capital to have a big imaging department. So I felt, it's good to come here, get the best. And I ended up staying here. As they say, Buffalo is a jewel. You come to Buffalo, you stay in Buffalo.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I love Buffalo. What made you choose radiology?
That's a great question. In my 2nd and 3rd year as medical student, especially my 3rd year, I started thinking what I wanted to do. I love medicine so much, and I did not want to pick a very, very narrow field, and I wanted a field that deals with everything. So sorting out through 2 or 3 things I was looking at, I opted to do radiology. I loved it. I felt it's great. It deals with pediatrics, with obstetrics, with orthopedic, with lung, with GI, with spine. It deals with every single thing.
It's pretty advanced. You decided to take the radiology route. What led you to the decision to open your own group?
It wasn't like you wake up one day and you say, I want to open my own group. When I finished my training, my residency at UB, I joined the university group.
Okay.
Worked there for 5 years, and little did I know then, I wouldn't have never predicted we'll start a group. It's circumstances in life and how you adapt and how you respond. There was a little bit of lack of leadership and lack of focus in the year 1999-2000 with university, and there were some events that happened that somebody had to fill up the void, and the decision was then to stay in Buffalo, not to stay in Buffalo.
Okay.
We love Buffalo. My kids are born in Buffalo, and we had a lot of friends, and opportunity came up to join with some of my previous partners. And we came together, we formed a group, and from there it was history. It was just quality and service, and the group kept growing.
Wow. Was the first location your Genesee Street location downtown?
It was the first location.
Okay. Wow. Which is super impressive now.
And it's coincidence that it's the first MRI in Buffalo. It's a beautiful site at a great intersection of roads. At the crossroad where it's easy for folks from the south towns, north towns, downtown to reach it. That's why multiple hospitals came together to put that location. When they teamed up on owning one magnet, And
Wow.
at that time we had just formed our group, being hospital-based and doing some outpatient imaging
Okay.
centers where we were the contract radiologists, not the owners. But
Okay.
the first opportunity to go and own and develop ourselves was
Wow.
WNY MRI.
That's impressive. So
Yeah.
that was the first MRI in Buffalo.
It was the first MRI in Buffalo.
Wow,
And
that is impressive.
when the hospitals each purchased their own, they put the place for sale, and we were the winning bid because, of course, we paid more than others, so
Sure. Yeah.
so they sold it to us.
Wow, that's great. Wow, that's impressive. I love in your Genesee Street building too. There's both you and Dr. Mascaro have plaques dedicated to your families in there, and I think it's just such a testament to both of you. You know, just it's so great.
None of us would be where we are if it wasn't for the support and guidance and the sacrifices of our parents.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So
great.
we have to always remember that.
Yeah, for sure. That's really great. That's awesome. So if you were in residency today, would you take the same route? Would you become a business owner, or would you take a different route?
If I was in residency now, it depends. As I told you, it's not like it was a decision. I don't want to be
Sure.
in a practice. If you're in a group where you love the practice and you're happy, that's all what it's about.
Sure.
If you have to build your own group
Yeah.
to get the satisfaction you need, you have to do it. And there is more risk and it takes more courage
For sure.
to do your own group and be responsible for
Definitely.
staff, for equipment, for rent, etc.
Speaking of rent, if you were looking to maybe at a 10th location, what would your advice be to physicians owning versus leasing a building? That's just a pretty hot topic.
That's a very, very great question. Our focus is always primarily is medicine, the practice of medicine, but real estate is an adjunct. Sometimes you could be involved in it at the same time as you're practicing medicine. What new physicians and young physicians should understand is that the economy of a building depends on the tenants.
Sure.
And depends on the leases you have, and the leases depend how strong the tenants are. So what fuel the real estate market is basically the tenants. So if you needed a small footprint in a large building, maybe you rent, which we rent at many locations. If you think you can be an anchor tenant, and if you have a long-term approach, you're starting a practice that's gonna stay for decades.
Yeah.
I'd advise to really sit down with an advisor, with an architect, with a developer, and try to own your building if you can.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So if you ask a question, if we were to put another location that's encompassing, like soup to nuts, X-rays, through PET, MRI, then definitely we will buy.
You would buy. Okay.
Especially it makes sense when to site an MRI, for example, average cost is about $400,000.
Sure.
You'll be
Wow.
spending more money to site your equipment than the cost of the building.
Sure.
So you might
Really good point.
as well pay for the building, and 20 years down the line, as somebody is getting closer to retirement, then it's really new found money, the equity that they developed without noticing all those years.
Yeah, really good, very good advice for sure.
Usually physicians are a little gun shy
Sure.
of doing that step, but I encourage them to get good advice, and sometimes it might not be the right choice to own it,
Sure.
but many times it is the right
It
choice.
is. Yeah. Speaking of advice, what advice would you give medical students or residents that are still in their training or schooling right now?
Study well, learn well, understand the patient, understand disease, understand the pathology. The foundations are always the pathology of disease, and knowing your foundations well, you can build on it. Listen to your patients very well. So many clues from obtaining good history, and focus on quality. Everything else will follow.
I like
Focus on quality.
That's great. That's great advice. Really important question. Where's your favorite place to eat in Buffalo?
Actually, my wife is such a great cook that she does very well, but my family actually love Orazio restaurant.
Oh yeah.
They love it so much.
I've heard
So
that's
I eat
really
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
so my kids choose it, and I agree with them.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That's great. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Dr.
Well, thank
Serghany.
you.
I appreciate it. So if you're in need of imaging, Dr. Serghany has multiple locations, like we said, throughout the Buffalo, Niagara region. Just Google Western New York MRI and you'll be able to locate where all those locations are. Thank you.
Thank you.